They told me to water the plants and lock the doors, treating me like reliable help rather than family. You're too old for long flights, Grandma. Just watch the house. Those words echoed as they drove away in their black van, laughing about Greek beaches and fresh seafood. I waved silently, swallowing my hurt. The next morning changed everything. Their plane tickets appeared in my mailbox. Athens, 2 adults, 2 children, seats together. My name was nowhere. I stared at them like they belonged to someone else's life. Departure in 3 days. I made tea. That's what you do at my age when something punches you in the chest. But my hands wouldn't stop trembling as I reached for my address book and called the travel agency. "I'd like to cancel these tickets," I said firmly. The girl sounded surprised, but I offered no explanation. Sitting in the armchair where I'd once rocked my son to sleep, I looked around the living room. Paul's photo still smiled from the mantel, forever young. He'd passed 20 years ago. If he were here, this wouldn't have happened. I'd been many things in this house: wife, nurse, secretary, cook, fixer of broken toys and hearts. But for the last decade, just Grandma. Not Helen, not Mom. A muted, obedient presence in the background. Then I opened the drawer where I kept my passport. Still valid. I had over $12,000 saved, a few thousand more in bonds, no debts, no one depending on me anymore. I booked a flight to Athens. 1 seat, aisle. The morning came gently. I locked the door, left a note for my neighbor Carol, and walked down the steps slowly but with purpose. I didn't look back. At the airport, the gate agent glanced at my passport and smiled that rehearsed way young people do when they see someone old traveling alone. "Enjoy your flight, ma'am." I just walked on, gripping my suitcase handle like a shield. I hadn't flown in nearly 30 years. The airport felt loud and metallic, all glass and announcements and tangled lives, but I moved through it like I belonged, because pretending you belong is half the battle when you've been quietly invisible for too long. On the plane, I slept most of the flight, the kind of sleep that keeps grief from turning into rage. When I woke, we were over the Mediterranean, endless blue stretched below. That's when I realized I'd really done it. I wasn't here to sightsee. I was here because they told me not to come. Athens greeted me with different heat. I took a taxi to a modest pension on a side street. The woman at the desk called me Madame, like it still meant something. In my room, I sat on the bed's edge and stared at the tiled floor. Grief doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it's just sitting still, thinking of all the birthdays and holidays where you smiled through being unwanted. That evening, I walked to a small bakery. The waiter was kind, didn't rush me. I ate slowly without checking my phone once. Nobody was waiting for updates from me anyway. The next morning, I put on lipstick for the first time in years, the shade I wore before everything became beige and apologetic. At the front desk, I asked for recommendations. "Somewhere quiet," I said. "Try Anaphiotica," she suggested. "It's old, very peaceful." White houses, winding alleys, cats sleeping in doorways, flowers in chipped pots. Everything was slow and stubbornly beautiful. I walked until my feet ached, then sat on a stone bench and simply existed. I bought a postcard for my granddaughter Amelia. "Dear Amelia, guess where I am? Greece. The sea is bluer than you can imagine." I didn't write to my son or his wife. They didn't need to know yet. It happened at breakfast 2 days later. A woman about my age sat at the next table, silver hair and a no-nonsense bun, eyes sharp behind half-moon glasses. "You use too much butter," she said, not unkindly. "Better than too little," I replied. That was the beginning. Her name was Rosalie, a retired school principal from Lyon, traveling alone like me. Widowed, she added casually. She had that dry, flinty confidence some women wear like good perfume. We started walking together through quieter streets. She noticed things everyone else passed by. A broken shutter painted lilac, a dog asleep beside a statue. She wasn't capturing anything for social media. She just looked, really looked. "And your family?" she asked over lunch. "They're fine," I said. "Just thought I was too old to travel." Her eyes narrowed. They said that to you? You're here, she said simply, so they were wrong. The next morning, Rosalie knocked on my door with a map. Florence, she said. I've always wanted to see the Uffizi. We booked train tickets that afternoon, 2 women over 70 buying one-way seats like students on summer break. The train to Florence left just after 9. We sat quietly, sharing croissants, watching the countryside roll by, soft and golden, stitched with vineyards. Florence greeted us with warm air and narrow streets. Our hotel was old and charming, with a tiny balcony overlooking red roofs and laundry lines. At the Uffizi, standing before the birth of Venus, I felt something loosen inside me. Beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, inevitable, and you don't realize it's moving you until your throat tightens. You're different now, Rosalie said over pasta. You sit taller, less folded. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. Back in the room, I checked my phone out of habit. 24 missed calls. I scrolled through messages. Where are you? Are you okay? Did something happen? Then a voice memo from my son. Mom, please call us. The kids are upset. We thought you'd be home. I stared at the screen, trying to feel something. Anger, sadness, guilt. But what I felt was distance. Not cruelty, just space, enough to breathe. Another message arrived. Mom, did you cancel our vacation on purpose? We got to the airport and... Never mind. Just please call. We're worried. I turned the phone off. Where next? Rosalie asked the next day. Lisbon, I said. Always wanted to hear Fado live. Lisbon welcomed us warm and disheveled, full of music you didn't need to understand to feel. We stayed in a guest house with blue shutters overlooking a square where children played. Rosalie wasn't feeling well that day. Nothing serious, just a fever and aching joints. She insisted, go out, see the city. But I didn't. I brought her tea instead. Sat by her bed, reading aloud. She dozed off peacefully, and I realized something profound. I'd spent my whole life looking after others, but this didn't feel like obligation. It felt like choice. That night, I cooked eggs and tomatoes we ate on the balcony. Thank you, Rosalie said softly, for not leaving. The next morning, I woke to Fado drifting from the square below, haunting, melancholic music from somewhere older than sadness itself. I stood barefoot on the balcony, letting the music settle into my bones. Later, I turned on my phone, 5 new messages from my daughter-in-law. This isn't funny, Helen. We're not sure what to tell the kids. From my son, you've made your point. Had I? I wasn't even sure what point they thought I was making. I hadn't spoken a word since they left me behind. That night, we found a photo bar tucked between alleys. A woman sang about longing, about being left behind, about getting back up. I sat with eyes closed, heart strangely still. She wasn't singing for me, but I understood every word. A letter appeared under our door one night, just my name in rushed, familiar handwriting. My son. Mom, we don't understand what you're doing. The kids are confused. Amelia cried. If you're trying to punish us, you've made your point. Come home, please. David. No apology, no acknowledgement that they'd excluded me, just concern for how it looked now that I was gone. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Are we having breakfast or mourning the weak penmanship of disappointing sons? I laughed. The truth is, I hadn't left to punish anyone. I'd left because I was done asking for a seat at a table that kept shrinking. I hadn't stopped being a mother or grandmother. They had simply stopped seeing me. Later by the river, I typed a message to Amelia. Sweetheart, I'm fine. I'm traveling. Not angry, not hiding. Just needed a bit of sky. Love you. That evening, when the guest house manager said my daughter-in-law had called, worried, I simply replied, thank you. I don't need to call back. I slept deeply that night, the kind of sleep you get when you stopped expecting to be needed and started choosing to be whole. Seville felt like fire, not just from heat, but from life pulsing in every alley. It was bold, proud, unapologetic. Our hotel overlooked a courtyard with orange trees. Rosalie declared, "This place demands earrings," and emerged with silver hoops that danced when she moved. That evening, we found a courtyard where a small group performed flamenco, not for tips or cameras, but for each other. A woman danced, at least mid-70s, her feet striking the floor with the force of a promise. I couldn't stop watching. "She's older than we are," Rosalie whispered. The crowd applauded. I just watched, heart suddenly too full. At a cafe the next day, I saw a family, 4 of them, and for a moment the woman's silhouette reminded me of my daughter-in-law. My chest tightened, then released. It passed. A message from Amelia appeared. "Grandma, where are you now? Your photo from Lisbon was amazing. Can I call you soon?" I smiled. Rosalie had photographed me on the balcony. Not posing, just That evening, I walked the beach barefoot, letting cold water nip at my toes. An older couple walked hand in hand, fingers locked like the answer to a question they no longer needed to ask. My phone buzzed. David again. "Please, just let us hear your voice." I stared at the screen, then opened the voice memo app and pressed record. No script, no rehearsal. "David, I'm not angry, but I am changed. I spent most of my life waiting to be asked, to be needed, to be seen. I was sometimes, but mostly I was background to your lives. I don't say this to make you feel guilty. I say it because it's true. I love you. I always will. But I'm not coming back to the role you gave me. If you want me in your life, it won't be as a backup plan or babysitter. It'll have to be as a person, a whole one. I hope you understand." I hit send. That night, I dreamt of a hallway lined with closed doors. I walked slowly, and one by one they clicked open behind me. I didn't look back. In the morning, Amelia sent a drawing she'd made, me on the beach, scarf around my neck. The caption, "She looks like she remembered who she was." "Let's go dancing tonight," I told Rosalie. She blinked. "Do your knees even allow that?" I grinned. "They'll learn." The bar wasn't meant for us. Too young, too fast, too loud. But we went anyway. I wore the yellow scarf in my hair like a ribbon I'd earned. We found a table near the back. The music wasn't flamenco, but something newer, with a beat that snuck under your skin. I watched the dancers, how they moved without caring about missing the beat. I said, "I'm going." "Where?" Rosalie looked up. "Out there." I stood and walked onto the floor. I didn't wait for a partner or permission. I just started moving. At first it felt strange, my limbs stiff and unsure, but the beat pulled me forward, and the years fell off like dust from an old coat. I danced, not gracefully or skillfully, but fully. A young man smiled and offered his hand. I took it, spun once, laughed, then let go. I didn't need him to carry the rhythm. I had my own. Rosalie joined me. We danced like schoolgirls, awkward, breathless, gleeful. When we returned to the guest house hours later, barefoot and flushed, we collapsed on the bed like teenagers. "That was irresponsible," Rosalie gasped. "I know. I loved it. I know." My knees ached. My back would hate me tomorrow, but my chest felt wide open. Before sleep, I checked my phone. Amelia had written, "Dad doesn't know how to answer you. He keeps reading your message. He printed it. It's on the kitchen table. Mom thinks you've lost your mind. I told her, maybe you finally found it. I'm proud of you." I stared at her words, simple, quiet, real. "Tell your father he doesn't have to answer yet. Some truths take time to land," I typed back. She responded with a little anchor emoji. I drifted off with sore feet, tired muscles, and a heart that finally felt like it belonged to me again. Barcelona was our last stop. Neither of us said it, but we knew. We'd seen enough cities to recognize when a journey winds down, when momentum becomes something quieter, more settled. We arrived in the afternoon and found a small hotel near the Elborn. The windows opened wide, and we unpacked in silence. That night on the balcony, I opened my notebook again. Page 3 of Things I've Never Said Out Loud. I thought if I gave enough, they'd keep me close. But love bought by sacrifice always costs least. I didn't mind getting older. I minded being dismissed. It took 50 years to realize silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just fear dressed in patience. My phone buzzed. My daughter-in-law, Laura. Helen, we've been talking. David doesn't know how to reach you. We didn't mean to leave you out. We planned the trip thinking it would be easier, but that was a lie. We were afraid of your age, not because of your limitations, but because it reminded us of our own. We're sorry. If you decide to come home, we'd like to start over. No expectations. Just you as you are. I sat very still. It wasn't an apology that erased anything. It was simply a beginning. The next morning, Rosalie found me packing. Home? She asked. Eventually. She nodded. About time you threw the last punch. I laughed. Wasn't a punch, more like a door opened. Rosalie left the second day. We hugged at the station. Neither said goodbye, just soon. That night, alone, I ordered wine and sat by the window. I didn't feel finished, but I felt full. Tomorrow I'd buy a ticket, not back to the house they told me to watch, but to the life I finally chose to return to, on my terms. The airport felt less like goodbye and more like a pause. I wasn't leaving something behind. I was bringing something back. Myself, maybe. When I landed, no one was waiting. I didn't expect them to. The air was thicker here, the sky more muted. It smelled like damp grass and overwatered hedges, a familiar kind of forgotten. My house was exactly as I'd left it. Inside, everything held its breath. I walked room to room, touching things, the couch edge, the chipped bowl, Paul's photo. Nothing had moved, but everything had changed. I made tea and sat at the kitchen table. My phone buzzed. Amelia. Are you home? Yes. Can I come by? Yes. Doors open. She arrived in 20 minutes. No ceremony, just a long, quiet hug that said more than words could. I liked your list, she said, sitting across from me. You left your notebook open in one of the photos. I've been making one too, she continued, pulling out a small spiral notebook. Things I refuse to inherit quietly. I read her words. The belief that women outgrow desire. The idea that aging is decline. The habit of saying I'm fine when I'm not. The silence passed down like furniture. You're going to be all right, I said. Because you were, she replied. The doorbell rang. That's them, Amelia said gently. David stepped into the kitchen like it was sacred ground, his face tired, older. Laura appeared behind him, hands clasped. We don't know how to start, Laura said. You already did. You showed up. I didn't want to lose you, David said. You didn't. You just stopped seeing me. He nodded. I'm sorry. Not grand, not poetic, just honest. It was enough. They didn't stay long that first visit, enough time for awkward tea, too many pauses, and the quiet work of building a new shape between us. I didn't rush it or smooth over rough parts. I let them feel the quiet I'd lived in for years. Laura asked about my trip. I gave her pieces, not the whole. She didn't deserve the whole. Not yet. When they left, David lingered. Do you want to come for dinner sometime? No big gathering, just us. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. He seemed relieved.
After they were gone, the house was quiet again, but not the same quiet, not the brittle kind that cracks when you breathe. This was softer, a pause before a new line begins. That night on the porch, I wrote in my notebook, "Things I know now." People don't notice your silence until it costs them something. Leaving isn't the same as running away. You can still start over at 72. Some doors don't need to be slammed, just closed softly, but firmly. Your voice isn't gone. It's waiting for you to stop asking permission to use it. I paused, then added, "Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for your own breath." Amelia came by the next afternoon, flopped on the couch like old times. "I made a decision. I'm applying to the program in Berlin." "You should," I said, without hesitation. "Don't wait for permission. You'll miss your life." She smiled wide. "I knew you'd understand." Before leaving, she handed me an envelope, a drawing of me at the beach, arms open, head tilted toward the sea. At the bottom, "She didn't come back the same, and that was the point." I placed it beside Paul's photo on the mantel. He would have understood. The next morning, a letter arrived from David. Real paper, blue ink. "Mom, thank you for the tea, for letting us sit in the silence. I see it now. I don't expect to be forgiven, but I'd like to try. Not to erase anything, but to build something better, if you're willing." I folded the letter. I didn't reply immediately. Some silences aren't meant to be filled.